It is 7 o'clock. Good evening. Call this meeting of the Richland County Board to order and ask the clerk to take the roll. Here.
Miller. Kramer. Here. McKee.
Here.
Engel.
Here.
Hendricks. Here. Manning.
Here.
Gill.
Here.
Glassbrenner.
Here.
Harwick. Here. Woodhouse.
Here.
Turk.
Here.
Cosgrove.
Here.
Frank.
Here.
Severson.
Present.
Williamson.
Here.
Cooey. Fleming. Brookins.
Here.
McGuire.
Here. I believe we have Supervisor Miller online with us now.
Yes.
So Mary. I was counting.
Yeah, 18 present.
18. Thank you, sir.
All right. For our invocation tonight, Monsignor Shekel is joining us.
In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, amen. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, pour forth your grace upon the members of this county board, that they may deliberate with the wisdom and knowledge necessary to successfully address challenges and concerns that are before them this evening. May the discussions and decisions of this body lead to safeguarding and furthering the common good, in order that your blessings become more present in the lives of the citizens of Richland County. Lord, we ask that you protect this region from all man-made and natural disasters, that you bless our county, our state, and nation, harmony and peace, preserving us from divisions caused by factionalism. Keep us in your peace. We ask this through your Son, Jesus Christ, who lives and reigns with you and the Holy Spirit, one God, forever and ever. Amen. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Thank you. You turn to face the flag. I'll ask the clerk to lead us in the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Are we in compliance with the open meetings law?
We are, sir.
Thank you. We have before us a 19-point agenda. I'd be looking for a motion to approve that agenda. Motion by Kramer, second by McKee. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Agenda is adopted. We've also been given the minutes of the January 21st meeting. Anybody have questions, corrections, comments on those minutes? Hearing none, the chair declares that those minutes are approved as published. Item 8 on the agenda, public comment. Do we have anyone from the public who would like to address the board tonight? Mr. Lynn, you can introduce yourself.
My name is Alan Linz. I'm a member of the Simons Recreation Complex Foundation Board. I'd like to request that Simons be given access to the gymnasium on the campus. Not long ago, Richland County officials made it clear that Simons needed to become a financially sustainable operation, considering the challenges in the Richland County budget. Today it can be said that Simons is risk of that challenge. At the February Natatorium Board meeting, Mike Hardy reported that membership at Simons has increased by over 500 during the previous 6 months. Currently, there are 2,250 active members at Simons, more than at any time since 2020. In 2024, the Simons Foundation contributed approximately $50,000 to Simons, which was used for new equipment, pool accessories, furnishings, and other assorted items. I believe that the increase in membership at Simons is a combination of the efforts of both Mike Hardy and Kyle Ewing, along with the support of the foundation. The foundation is planning to donate another $50,000 to Simons in 2025. There was an approximate $21,000 donation from the Simons Foundation approved at the most recent Natatorium Board meeting for 4 pieces of exercise equipment. Full County Board will be asked to approve this donation in the upcoming meeting. The foundation is ready to support Simons as much as possible. To take the next steps to ensure Simons' long-term financial sustainability, access to the campus gymnasium would be very beneficial and could be argued to be necessary. I have a video of one of the land exercise classes I was at where the room was full and a couple of people came and looked and laughed. There have also been conversations where people indicated they would like to join, but choosing not to do so at this time because it is crowded. There have been 2 new recreation complexes built recently in Wisconsin. One is the Lunda Center in Black River Falls, the other is the Tag Center in Mayville. Both have gymnasiums along with swimming pools, machine, land exercise room, and other sort of amenities. I urge Richland County officials to not view what Simons looks like today, but what it could be in the future. The trend is toward recreation complexes having gymnasiums. Members of Simons and members of the community or potential members of Simons are asking to use the gymnasium for a variety of exercise-related activities such as volleyball, pickleball, indoor walking, land exercise, etc. The gym would help meet that demand. Simon needs the help and support of Richland County officials to gain access to the campus gym. Simons is not an outside entity asking to use the gym. Simons is an entity within Richland County government. No MOU would be needed for Simons to use the gymnasium, unlike outside organizations. If Simons can start to use the campus gymnasium, which is less than 100 feet away, Mike and Kyle will have the opportunity to increase program offerings, which would increase membership, allowing it to become more financially sustainable for long-term viability, and reduce the amount of taxpayer dollars needed for support. Thanks for your consideration.
Thank you for your comment. Anybody else wish to address the board? Either here in person or online. Mr. Severson, who is a board member.
I would like to, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to encourage the Richland County Board to have some discussions or consideration on our first year of reorganization and to evaluate our efficiencies and deficiencies that we have since we have reorganized twice in the last 4 years. I feel that we went 11 months and we organized this county board in 3 months last year. We went 11 months now without having to look at it in depth of where we are deficient or where we are excelling. And I would encourage the Richland County Board to look at that as we're approaching 1 year right now of our reorganization.
Thank you. Anyone else here or online that would like to address the board? Hearing none, we'll move on to agenda item number 9, appointments to various boards, committees, and commissions. Starting with the Transportation Coordinating Committee member.
Okay, so this is 9A in your guys' packet. We do have HHS Director Clements here as well, but the language you have before you is to approve the new Transportation Coordinating Committee member. Yes.
It's actually 9B. Sorry to interrupt you, but should be 9B in your packet.
Must have got a little bit wrong.
Oh, okay. So we're talking about Transportation Coordinating Committee. So
9A.
I have 9A on the agenda. Okay, so what we're needing to do is appoint Eric Rennish to the TCC Transportation Coordinating Committee, replacing Jeremy Walsh, as Mr. Walsh has resigned his position. So unless there's anything additional to report, Director Clemens, feel free to chime in, but we need to approve that appointment to Transportation Coordinating Committee.
Motion by Mr. Cosgrove to approve, second by Kramer. All those in favor of that appointment, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
The appointment is confirmed. Thank you. So now B on our agenda, A in your packet.
So emergency fire wardens, this is an annual thing that we do every year. So the 2025 fire wardens as represented are up there on the screen. So again, these are very reoccurring in nature. So we simply need a motion to approve the above listed as the emergency fire wardens. Then this information is then forwarded on to state contacts as needed. So a motion to accept those appointments.
Motion by Mr. Manning. We have a second by Supervisor Fleming. All those in favor of the appointment of the emergency fire wardens, please say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? They are appointed. Thank you.
Okay, so then MIS director. So this is the agenda cover item should be in the packet. It may not have made it to this packet, but it should be in your county board packet. The agenda, the appointment needed is to appoint Jason Marshall as MIS director effective March 4th of 2025. Barb Scott, our current MIS director, has announced her retirement effective March 3rd of 2025. Mr. Marshall currently serving in MIS, as many of you are aware of who Mr. Marshall is, has extensive experience in working with Richland County and is heavily involved in many of the current projects we have underway. There are several projects. I think you were all aware of those big projects, Tyler Implementation Radio Tower Project, and the investment of MIS as a department as a whole in there, but in particular, someone assuming the role of MIS director. So appointing Jason to the role of MIS director will assist in efforts to ensure a continuity of operations during a time that is quite vital with the big projects we have within the department and for countywide MIS services as a whole. So my recommendation to you all is to appoint Jason Marshall as MIS director effective March 4th, 2025. So that is what I'm bringing before you today.
That motion? Motion by Kramer, second by McKee. And discussion? Certainly appreciation to Ms. Scott for her service as MIS director for as long as I've been around the county.
A long time.
A long time. Appreciate all your efforts and look forward to working with Jason. So, all right, if there are no other comments, then all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposition? All right, that appointment is confirmed. One MIS related note has nothing to do with that announcement. They will need to collect our iPads tonight at the conclusion of the meeting. They've got to do some software changes on them. They will be contacting us individually as to when we can pick them up. So just so you're aware, after the meeting tonight, please give your iPads to our MIS staff over here. They will get them all updated and back to us. Right, item 10 on the agenda, an ordinance relating to a parcel belonging to Gerald and Claudia Barris in the town of Dayton.
This would be ordinance number 25-3, amendment number 616 to Richland County Code of Ordinance, chapter 119. Zoning relating to two parcels belonging to Gerald T. and Claudia R. Barris in the town of Dayton. Sir, you don't wish me to read the entire ordinance?
No, I do not.
Okay. As you can see before you, this ordinance shall be effective upon passage and publication. This ordinance was offered by the Natural Resources Standing Committee on 3 February of 2025.
Motion by Mr. Manning, second by Mr. Gill. Approval and discussion.
I can just tell you, this is
Go ahead.
one more case where we're updating the zoning to align with the size of the parcel. I'll tell you right now, I've not talked to our new zoning administrator about any new zoning requests to be denied or not,
So this is another
past that.
another cleanup one here.
Yeah.
All right, any further discussion? Those in favor of the rezoning, say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? The ordinance is adopted. As Mr. Curo indicated, we have no board on amendments requests received, nor any recommended for denial at this time. So we'll look forward to next month. Brings us to item 13 and the heading of reports, starting with our county administration.
Okay, so I have quite a bit to update you all on. So a lot of stuff is going on. As you know, the office is always busy. Offices are always busy, plural, I should say. All right, so for the February County Board report, first thing I'd like to report is that interim deputy county administrator Elder did receive a scholarship from WCHA. Is that correct?
Correct.
And the Transportation Development Association to attend a seminar in Washington, D.C. To further educate him on all these fun things that I will let him tell you about, but all the costs to attend this seminar will be covered by that scholarship. And just given that it is out of state travel, we'll bring this to you just for an FYI, but I will let Josh tell a little bit more about his rather cool accomplishment here.
So the highway department participates with all highway departments across the state of Wisconsin. There's 52 of them all together. And then we each represent a district. So in our case, Richland County is part of the Southwest District, which consists of a board of directors. And the board of directors at WCHA works usually at a state level to change in legislation, bring funding and stuff forward. And then at the federal level, it's called the TDA, the Transportation Development Association, and their headquarters is in Washington, D.C. And of course, that's where they do all of their talks and stuff at the government level. Every commissioner in their career generally tries to go out there once for an annual, it's called the TDA fly-in. You go out there for several days and you have meetings at like Capitol Hill, and then sometimes a one-on-one, sometimes a small group discussion with representatives at that level. Talk about the problems at local levels and then how funding streams can be improved and move forward. So this is an opportunity that I did not actually go after. It was something I was kind of with. So first week in April, I will be going out to Washington DC to be part of that experience, tour the big TDA facility, and then go have, I believe, breakfast on Capitol Hill, and then meetings the rest of the time that I'm there.
Thank you, sir. Then I'm going to turn this over to MIS here for a little bit. So you're all familiar with the claim reimbursement form. Those of you that use the Excel sheet, you will notice there's a submit button after you can do that. And what we found is sometimes that's submitted and sometimes it doesn't find its way to me to process those per diem. So our MIS team was able to come up with this newly revised electronic version of that claim reimbursement form. So you still have the option to continue to use the Excel sheet to do it by hand, or you can fill it out electronically here. So this will replace the Excel one. Again, any of those three are fine, but I will let John do, or Jason, whoever would like to speak about it, just do a brief overview of this. It's the same information that you would always use, just a different method to submit those. So one of you two or both of you review that quickly, please.
So when we redo the iPads, there'll be an icon. The iPad, they'll take you directly to this web page. Basically, you just fill it out as a web form. In your month, then when you hit add entry, it will actually pop up for the date, drop down for your meetings, and then it has the option to decline the reimbursement for each individual item that you put in. Get your deals and parking and so forth. When you add them all in, it will create a list, and then that will email to Gary.
And so we will, this is again, just a different method to do what we've been doing before. So hopefully the hope is that we're always trying to streamline operations and make things as efficient as possible. Hopefully that does that. As with anything, I anticipate one or two bumps along the road with this because I would be silly to not think that that's going to happen. So if you have those and you're using that, please let myself and or MIS know. We work diligently to fix any issues that we have with that. So again, if you're using the Excel one, that's fine. Or if you want to do it by hand, you all have different ways you like to do this. And as long as I get the per diems to pay you, I'm okay with one of those three methods. So you have a variety to choose from, okay? Just an update on the vacancy notice for District 3. So if those of you were looking in the Observer, that was posted on the 13th and the 20th of February. It was in the Shopping News on the 18th and the 25th. This are rules to fill vacancies are spelled out very nicely, actually, but nonetheless, anyone interested in filling that vacancy in District 3 will have until March 28th at 4 p.m. to submit the items to me. And then we will have an appointment date of April 15th at the 2025 County Board meeting. So that is being advertised per board rules, and those, if anyone has any questions, feel free to direct them to me, and I'll be happy to answer whatever I can with that. A note on meetings, Public Works Standing Committee did change the date they meet. So they went from the first Thursday to the second Thursday, still at 4 o'clock, but that would be effective with the March 13th meeting, I believe. So that was just a meeting date there. And that committee meeting list was updated and should be posted on the county's website as it normally is. Next order of business, the Lou Everett Group. So that's the collaboration team building group we had scheduled for January 23rd. After the county board meeting on the 21st, they contacted Chair Turk at around 9 o'clock and said, we can't come, flights were canceled because of weather. So we were able to reschedule that to March 27th of 2025. It's going to be the same time, the 10 to 3 with the 1 hour lunch from 12 to 1. The content is the exact same. None of that will change. They will be here in person for this, but it's just rescheduled to March 27th. Miranda will send you all an email as we get a little closer to the date to confirm your attendance, to make sure we have enough pizza, pop and chips here to feed you for lunch. So that will be coming up shortly. March is not that far away, actually. Any questions about that? The content's the same. we can send the agenda again, but it's just rescheduled to March 27th. The recruitment for the county administrator is underway. That recruitment actually closed yesterday on February 17th.
The PAA informed me that they have 14 total applicants.
And then the candidate report will be provided to Executive and Finance Standing Committee on February 23rd. So that would be this coming Sunday already. And then on February 24th, so next Monday, there will be the Executive and Finance Committee will meet in closed session to make the final selection of candidates. I understand it's going to be a lengthy meeting for those of you involved in that, a couple hours, 2 to 3 hours, but and then the schedule will kind of carry on from what we discussed before. But then the candidate meet and greet week is scheduled for around March 10th. There's still some details, I believe, to work out with that, but this is kind of as far as I'll go with the schedule. But again, the schedule was posted online as a part of our regular committee meeting packets then, but that's what's going on for county administrator recruitment. Finance director, this is exciting. We have 3 interviews scheduled this week, actually, 2 on Thursday and 1 on Friday. So that'll be a huge relief to have that position filled. A big relief, actually, coming into budget season and everything else, and just with Tyler implementation, that'll be great. So those interviews will happen this week. Also, Pine Valley Community Village Administrator, Angie Wall has stepped down from that role, or will step down once a permanent administrator is named. That position will advertise for 1 more week, and we will hopefully be interviewing for that around the 26th or 27th of February. So we have a deadline in which we have to have someone in place there. So that one's going to be very timely to work on, but that I did not know that was going to happen, but we have we've reacted and we're filling that position. The wage study update. So I have to thank all the department heads that are listening, or all of them that are here, because we've had a lot of work. That was a lot of work, and it wasn't easy. And I think we are in the final stages. So department heads, you're going to get some sneak peek information here. We have our department head meeting Thursday. So the 3rd Thursday is already this week. We will be in the last stage of any sort of appeals for job descriptions, and doing that one last round of appeals that'll kick off on Friday. Department heads will have until the following Friday to submit those. So it is only a week, but many of us have gone through lots of trials and tribulations to get these right. So there should be minimal changes at this point. So all of that should be wrapped up before we begin the maintenance portion of that wage study here in March. So again, this schedule is outlined. The item that's in your packet up there is from DDA. So I requested Dr. Melvin give you guys an update as well as staff an update. So department heads will talk about this on Thursday, but this just addresses some of the, I don't want to say concern, but just some of the things that were rather difficult to deal with when we're doing this. And I requested she put that in writing to address some of those issues. So this way you all knew that I followed up with that and that we were trying to make this process as easy as possible. But again, this had not been done for quite some time, and we're making up for lots of years of what I'll call deferred maintenance on our wage scale and those sorts of things. So the schedule, I won't go through that in its entirety, but we will be working on the ongoing maintenance, which is looking at 1/3 of those job descriptions, again, to make sure that we're making a conscious effort to look at those and update them accordingly. And then they will also look at the scale as a whole and make sure that what we have for positions in the market rate is still competitive with the market rate. We just did this, so I would assume that at least this round, there should be very minimal changes with that. But you as a county board committed to this wage study. And as a part of doing that, you also committed to the ongoing maintenance of maintaining that wage scale to make sure that positions are being paid as close to market as possible. So that's going to include ideally a one-step, and I don't want to say this too loud because then I don't want to set the expectation, but the goal is that with the 2026 budget that we would move one step forward as we committed to, and then consider a COLA of sorts. So this is the ongoing maintenance that will happen with that. Again, it's a process. We've never done this with this firm before, but Josh and I will work with Tessa and Justin to make sure that we are ready to go by the end of May. So when we start budget season really kicks off in May with capital improvements, that we are in a position that all the wage study's been wrapped up, positions been reviewed, and we can move forward with just the further implementation of that wage scale. Any questions about that? Again, I have to give the department heads a big kudos because these tasks they were not fun. It was a lot of work, but I do feel like we've made some progress. We've learned a lot along the way too on what was good and what was bad. So I think we're all better equipped to kind of handle these maintenance items going forward. So department heads, we got a sneak peek of what we'll talk about on Thursday. But radio tower project. So we did sign the final agreement with US Cellular last week. So there should be no more agreements to have to worry about or chase down. And then the construction of each site is currently underway. Active construction of each site. Interim Deputy County Administrator Elder informed me that Keysville and Gotham are the furthest ahead at this point.
As far as construction. And then we spent about 3.2 million of that $8 million.
There's no major concerns at this point to report that I'm aware of.
No major concerns on the financial end. 3.2 million at the end of January. There's been some expenses since then, but we're still right around that 3.2 million.
And then we're still hoping for August is kind of the wrap up date for that project as a whole. And we will be pushing that because we have some financial things we have to take care of with that money sitting in the bank. So I'm happy that a finance director will help be able to track that a little more closely. So when we get to the point of having you give that those earned interest back, then it will be less of a headache. Any questions about that? The Tyler implementation went live partially today. So Miranda and Tammy Newberry spent most of the day today and the last couple days working on Tyler. So we were able to transfer all of our financial data over. They were able to reconcile all of our balances from the old software and the new software, which was great to have that finalized by Monday because that would have been an incredible headache to figure out what didn't transfer or what was wrong. So nonetheless, balance was transferred. Tammy and Miranda spent, again, most of the day with our implementation consultant, entering transactions in, making sure we can print checks. Our new check stock came Monday, which was great too, because that was a last minute bump that we didn't think we were going to have to jump, but we did. So the other users will be phased in as we go, but at this point, Miranda and Tammy will be using that to make sure on our end, the accounts payable stuff that things are processing. So I think all is well. I need to give a shout out to Stephanie at HHS as well, because Stephanie, Miranda, and Tammy have spent a lot of time with Derek, our implementation consultant, to make sure that when this goes live, that we have as much of this taken care of as we can. So nonetheless, the new system is working, and so far we didn't print an actual check today, but we printed a paper version and all appeared to be well. So I'm going to knock on wood with that and just.
We went live on 11.
Well, yeah, kind of. Yeah, right. Right. So there's an election today in case anyone you didn't know. Payroll piece is the next one that's in line. So it's going to be here in another month or two, but Tammy and her staff will be doing a lot of the trainings tomorrow. This training is really intensive for this, you guys. There was like 56 hours of training just for a user level like me. So if you try to cram 56 hours into a week with everything else, it's rather difficult to do. So we will continually work on that training as we can. It is available throughout, the lifetime of the project and then some after, but payroll will be next. But accounts payable, GL stuff seems to be going okay right now. So we're going to take and run with that because that's good news for today. Campus Reconfiguration Committee met on February 12th. It was actually a very good meeting. We hadn't met for a while. Venture did provide updates on the space needs and then a brief overview of the viability of the buildings, uses for county purposes. There were costs to demo buildings too. I was a little scared at that part because it was presented like, Derek wanted demo estimates. No. Derek didn't say that. This was just, so when I said that, I'm like,
Request from the committee. No.
Dave saved me. You have to say something because I did not say that. But we needed those numbers just for the overall picture of items. So I was worried that was going to get out and present a far different image than what it was meant to. It didn't, thankfully, but nonetheless, the committee did review, priorities for future use. And I will be the first to say, I know this is a very sensitive topic to this community. We all know that, but what the committee, and I will just kind of paraphrase my take-home points, feel time in church, but what the committee kind of reviewed for priorities for future use would be the county needs to prioritize its needs and its wants to be considered first. Some of those things that were discussed in there were judiciary spaces, sheriff, jail spaces, those infrastructure spaces we need. The second item that was brought up was housing needs, possibly mixed use spaces. So we did talk a bit about that. And then a consideration should be given to mandated and non-mandated services. Again, I say that with lots of caution because it does, there's not this huge discussion, but when we're trying to figure out how to best use that space and how it kind of fits with the county's vision and what we need, those were the things that were considered and are what I'm just gonna say jumping off point to start negotiations. And negotiations means what do we do with the space and how do we effectively be good stewards of the space and be good stewards to our county and everyone that lives within the county. The next meeting is set for March 5th at 5 p.m. So anything else to add to that, Chair?
No, I've got some other things I'll share when we get to the.
Perfect. Okay.
Derek, thoughts and timelines about Simon's response to the request to use the gym?
I think that would be a discussion that we could entertain at the next meeting, at the next campus reconfiguration meeting. I know I will, there are requests to use lots of spaces on campus for lots of different reasons. And to just ensure consistency in the way that I'm responding to that, I have cleared with the committee that at this point, to be fair and equitable, we're really just not allowing use of that, not because some of the uses aren't good ideas, but again, to be fair to everyone and to make sure we're being very clear about how that space is utilized and not setting, this person gets different treated, different treatment. So I think that's a CRC discussion for.
And that's regarding specific requests that come.
Right.
We obviously have the MOU that we're working on with the school district. It's in their hands now. We haven't heard back from them yet.
So that's why I asked about timeline, because it's a space that's been for almost 2 years now that could be used. And the Simon's Foundation, in terms of a private entity, a private-public partnership on that would be a win for the county.
We can certainly discuss that at the campus reconfiguration committee meeting. So.
Yeah, I think those are all discussions that can be held there, and we'll talk more about the relationship of how that committee kind of plays with other things. I'll save that for the update. So, committee on committees will be scheduled for March 11th. We haven't had one of those committee on committee meetings for a while, but we do have some vacancies to address. But we will just FYI, in case you're interested in that, that'll be March 11th. And then Chair Turk and I did attend a legislative roundtable last Friday on the 14th with various members, Southwestern Wisconsin County board chairs, administrators, and representatives from Mark Line, Trannell, and Kurt's offices. We got everyone. I can't remember. Yes.
And Senator Kieski was not able to attend. She is transitioning from being a person in private practice to being an elected legislator and had previously scheduled appointments that day, so she couldn't come join us. But she was in the area the day before that and made an appearance on the local radio station and stuff. So
the take-home message from there is that many of the counties were all struggling with very similar issues. Very similar issues. I didn't know. I'd never met these people before. When they're talking, I'm like shaking my head, like, "Oh yeah, I get that." So we're all struggling with the same thing. We're not any different than other counties. We have a few, peculiarities, but we all do. But that was a message: is that everyone's struggling with the same thing. It's just in different dollar amounts or different quantifiable amounts. But many of the things we're experiencing are also being experienced in other counties. So that validated for me that okay, well, we're not too far off in worrying about what we worry or where we're at. So I think we're a little bit ahead. I think we walked away with some of the changes we've made in organizational structures and just the way that we've changed budgeting processes and just as a whole, I think we have a little leg up. I would fair to say, correct?
I would, yeah. If you listen to what the other county board chairs were talking about, and think of some of the discussions that were in this room about 2 years ago, budget wise, and the impending financial crisis that we were anticipating before the state legislature increased our shared revenue. Those are some decisions that counties are dealing with right now. Other counties, they are talking about the renewal rates for their health insurance program, trying to figure out how they can afford it. They're talking about flatline transportation aids from the state and how to maintain their highways. Interesting note, Iowa County has more county highway miles than any county in the state. I didn't know that. You have to go back in history to figure out why that is, but it is a fact and they're trying to deal with it. They're trying to figure out how to deliver mandated services and, for instance, human services, dealing with some of the same funding struggles we've been dealing with. Yet some of our other surrounding counties are dealing with realities of cutting positions. That's the way they've had to approach their budgeting to be able to make it balance. So they're dealing in very real sense with some of the same struggles that we faced. Not that we won't face those again, but at the moment, we're in a little bit better budget shape than some of our neighbors are.
Yeah, so then just some county clerk / administrator activities. As I noticed, there's a spring primary election today. Tyler implementation is gonna really be between that and the election the rest of the week. And then we did complete the annual 1099s, 1095s, W-2s, all that fun year and stuff. And they're still kind of getting ready for audit that's coming in April already. So I think that's all I have for now. I'm sure there's more. But giving you the main updates.
Supervisor Hendricks.
Yeah, I had a question about executive and finance when they're gonna do these interviews for the administrative. Is it just gonna be those 9 people allowed in closed door session? Or any one of us, other board members, gonna get to be a part of that selection process?
They're for the executive and finance coming up on Monday.
Yes.
They're not actually interviews. They're selecting the
Those are
candidates.
discussions to select from. When we get to the interviews where we interview people one-on-one, my anticipation would be, and I'm not chair of that committee, but he's sitting right here, that it would be the committee who's conducting the interview, but other county board supervisors could certainly observe, because ultimately we all have to vote to confirm whoever's selected.
So are we gonna be welcome in closed door session if we show up?
Those interviews would be conducted in closed session, and as I just said, it would be my anticipation that we would allow other county board supervisors to attend, but they won't be conducting the interview. It'll be the committee that's conducting it.
So, but this coming next meeting, we would be welcome then?
We will be in closed session for a goodly portion. I don't know of any reason that we would have to exclude other board members from the discussions we'll have with PAA. There won't be any
To all board
candidates
members?
present. It'll just be us and PAA talking about the people that have applied.
Okay,
It'll take a while because we got 14 people to go through.
Yeah.
So.
right. I was just wondering if I should bother to come. All right, thank you.
Mr. Severson.
Clerk Kalish talked about the US Cellular agreement that was just signed. Would that be for Tower Hill?
Yes.
So Tower Hill, that tower there, is right over here, it's on the city of Bristol Center property. US Cellular rents from the city of Bristol Center. And the county wanted to place some public safety equipment on there for fire, EMS, police, et cetera. What was the price of that contract that we had to go through? You mentioned
The one we just
the
signed.
cost of it, yeah. the cost. Was it?
That's a zero lease agreement.
$0.
Right, yeah.
Good.
I'm like, what? There's no cost.
One of our few contracts that was.
Yes.
Prior, I think there was some. That was
I would say we were able to leverage the unique interactions of the city and the county to make clear to US Cellular that this was a community united and they needed to negotiate with us in such a way that resulted in a $0. So.
Any other questions on the acting industry? All right. You, Mr. Kalish, and Mr. Alder, appreciate it. If Jared gets up and bolts suddenly, it's because he's still our county clerk and has clerk things to do, so. All right, next report on our agenda is a Richland County tourism update. And we'll welcome Marty Richards.
Steal a little space for you. First thing, thanks for putting up with me and having me. I know how much fun it is to get the board meetings until 1 in the morning. So I will keep this as short as I reasonably can. But first thing I have to correct Supervisor Carey over here. It is Minor Hill, named after Judge James Minor, the first judge of Richland County. And we're in the same snowmobile club. He loves it when I correct him. So anyway, with that said, thanks for having me. Real quick, I do want to give just a little background how Greater Richland Tourism got to where they're at and why. Because I know there's some confusion sometimes in how we exist and what we do. So real quick, in 2020, I was hired to be the part-time director of tourism for the city of Richland Center. At the time I was hired, 2 things. Number one, I was told to expand that entity because they understood Richland County is really unique. If you go look at pretty much any other county in Wisconsin, they have more than one city. They're not one city in the middle of a county with villages on the outside. Sauk County's got how many cities inside of it. And so those entities can kind of work to market themselves. But really, the city of Richland Center is dependent on the rural area, and the rural areas are dependent on the city. The city council understood that. And the first charge I was given was to grow the entity so that we were marketing the whole county. The second thing that I'll tell you was, as soon as I got the position, that was part-time at that time, COVID hit. So I was told, you go run out there and you invite people not to come to Richland County. That actually gave us two really good opportunities. And one was, it gave me the opportunity to really assess what was happening. If you remember, Lon Arbogast was the previous director prior to me. Lon was an outstanding man. I've known him actually quite a while, and he had started to bring me in already. He understood ahead of my arrival that he didn't understand social media, and unfortunately, I might understand it somewhat, or for benefit. But what happened was he kind of knew that this had more legs, it needed to do more, and he started to bring me in. Unfortunately, Lon, as you might remember, passed away very shortly after I got involved. The city council said, yeah, let's keep going with what Marty is kind of starting here. So what we did, we really looked at several different avenues that we needed, number one, to improve, number two, to grow, and then some of it was just to start. So the first thing we really did was we started to get into some very intentional print advertising. So we started doing advertising in Milwaukee Magazine, Inspired Magazine, magazines that directly target people who are looking to explore outdoor areas and outdoor exploration. If you talk to visitors that come back to this area, they came back because they enjoyed kayaking, biking, hiking, just exploring our outdoor spaces. That is our number one calling card here. The second thing we did, we looked at, how do we need to modernize what we were offering? We did have a website at that time. It was a website. We could say that. It was online. And right away, that was something that we needed to change as well. So in 2021, we converted to a much, these aren't my words, I've heard this from quite a few people, a much more appealing website. It's a lot easier to use and get to information that people are looking for. Also in 2021, that's when we really started to kick off. It was unique, and that everything happened in the same year. I would never ever do this again, but everything happened in the same year. We built a new website. We started our digital billboard campaign. So we do digital billboards in Milwaukee, in select areas in Chicago, Northwest Chicago, and some of the Chicagoland areas where we know very likely guests who might want to come and explore our area reside. Then really the big one that moved the needle on people coming to our area and the interest in our area was streaming advertising. We started that in 2021, and I'll real quickly explain what that is, because it gets a little scary when you start really hearing about it. We do streaming ads directly to people. So streaming meaning on your phone, if you're on Facebook or if you're on any search engine, you're on your phone and you will get an ad all of a sudden. You wonder where the heck did that come from? I apologize if it's ever a Greater Richland tourism ad, but that's not what you're going to see. Because we're not targeting anybody in Richland County, you're already here. What we're targeting is people in Milwaukee in select zip codes, and then in Chicago in select zip codes, Evanston area, northwest suburbs. We are starting to spread that out a little bit because we're seeing people will come further now as they're starting to understand what we offer. But we are literally targeting people that live in those areas that have an earnings range or income range within a certain bracket in certain age groups that we know are attracted to what we offer. And they are interested in outdoor exploration, kayaking, biking, hiking, hunting, everything we offer here. Now, it gets a little scary. And I know I've got friends that say, yeah, I don't have social media, so I don't get any of that. Baloney. They know exactly. You get on any Wi-Fi network, they know what your interests are, they know your age, they will figure it all out. Okay. Now we use our powers for good, is what I like to say. Now it does scare me a little bit when you think about how much information different entities can get on you and then market directly to you. But I'll direct you to this website view chart. And so 2018, before I arrived, was when they got the first website for Greater Richland Tourism. And website views isn't the end all be all. But what it is, we've learned, is it's an indicator of interest in our area and likely people who very well may come visit the area. Okay? And you'll see in 2018, 2019, they were kind of hovering around. In 2021 is when we really started to market. We had a campaign of, trying to attract people to the area. We kicked off the digital billboards in 2021 early, then later we started the streaming advertising. And I'll be honest with you, the streaming advertising, when you look at those numbers, it's like you turned a switch on. And all of a sudden our website, it was just bang. I kept checking numbers. Our partner in streaming advertising is Gray Media. They're a national company. They own a lot of NBC channels, broadcast channels. Then they also have their streaming advertising they do across the nation too. And I kept checking with them. I said, are you sure these numbers are right? And they're like, they're absolutely correct. They can dial it right in. And what those numbers are, and that's a year-to-date figure, 2024. So that was like November, but we ended the year in 2024 with 80,981, and those are new visitors to your website. So those were new people. They weren't returning people. New meaning they had not been to the website in at least 90 days. Typically, when people are looking at our area, they're looking now. They're going to go research the area, and then they'll tend to come to the area within about 30 to 45 days. So what this is telling us is that there are more people still looking, and they're looking going into the future too. But we ended up with a little over 80,000 views. Now, how do we determine what we're doing? Is it working? Go to that next slide. This is from the Department of Tourism, Wisconsin Department of Tourism. We get this every year in May. It used to be we get it in like February, and now as things are, we're getting it later and later. But we get this in May, late May. What this is a measure of direct visitor spending. Every county gets it. It comes, like I said, Department of Tourism. What it's measuring, because I want to make sure I'm clear on that, it is measuring direct visitor spending, which is spending by visitors in the county within tourism-related sectors. So, and they have percentages. So you don't, transportation, meaning gas, well, they're not going to give 100% of all the gas sales to tourism, right? So they have a matrix on it, what percent they assign. And you can try to argue this as much as you want, how they're measuring it. It never changes. They don't change the measurement or the percentages. So they are measuring recreation, retail, food and beverage, transportation, and lodging. So like lodging, you get a much higher percentage of it. But in transportation or food, it's a little lower. So if we look at the direct visitor spending in Richland County, you can really, that 2014 to 2017 measurement is really scary to me, because if we applied inflation to that, it was flat. But if we applied inflation to that, it means we were going backwards. We were losing. Okay. Then 2017 to 2018, Lon came in and he was starting to do some things, some marketing, and we started to see some growth. 2020 hit and COVID, and there's actually good news in COVID for us. What happened during COVID is that, number one, that was kind of when we formulated our campaign. We started our social media side. So I encourage everybody, if you've not been out there, go to YouTube, look up Greater Richland Tourism. You're going to get just tired of me real fast, but there's about 150 videos out there explain to folks that are out on YouTube, which, by the way, is the fastest growing social media outlet today. Google bought them about 2 years ago. And it's a way that people can get away from the noise of the chatter of social media. And they can go directly. It's like, I use it as the example. It's the guy that goes to the hardware store. Go and get directly what he wants. So the department picks it up, leaves. And that's what YouTube is now. And they have had 75% growth in the last year. So we started that at that time. That started to move the needle. 2020 hit, but we were one of the fastest counties in Wisconsin to recover from our loss of COVID in direct visitor spending. And then you'll see we averaged from, I'll throw 2020 out, but from 2021 on through 2023, we were increasing in direct visitor spending around $2.5 million in average each year of visitors and their spending dollars in the county. One of the things that I'll mention, so if you look at that 2023 figure, and I'll have a hard time seeing it from here, but it's 27 million something, or 27. Yeah, 27.2. That produced in the 0.5% county sales tax, $136,000. So that's a heck of a direct benefit of what tourism means to this county financially. Not to mention, one of the goals I've had and the work we've done is trying to attract people to the area, consider living here. And my wife and I own several short-term rentals. We've got three we're partners in, 2 that we own. And the visitors that we see, they're Milwaukee, Chicago. We're getting a high number from Minneapolis, which is kind of surprising me a little bit, but I've learned why they're coming. And many of those are looking at the area as, boy, we could move here. And broadband is probably one of the biggest reasons, because they know they could live here, work remotely, and they'd have, the best of both worlds. So when you look at our expenditure in the marketing, once we put a campaign together and the marketing we're doing, you'll see the growth that we've had. And that is real dollars to the area. The only other thing that I would mention, so we won't get the 2024 figures until June. Last year was exceptional. I don't always like to compare to other counties, although the last 3 years we've really knocked the socks off from some of our neighboring counties. And it kind of tracks with what you folks were talking about, with where counties are kind of struggling a little bit with some things. Last year in 2023, we outpaced, meaning we had a higher percentage of increase in direct visitor spending than 58 other Wisconsin counties. Our area counties, Grant County, so last year in 2023, we had a 6.6% increase in this figure. Grant County had a 2.1% increase. Vernon was a negative 1.3%. Crawford County gained 0.4% in their direct visitor spending. All 3 of those did not beat inflation. So they really, again, they had a downturn in their direct visitor spend. So all this to say, really, and I missed the one point. In 2021, when we put this marketing campaign together, we knew we had to change the name of the entity, because really the goal had changed. We were no longer marketing Richland Center. We were marketing the whole greater of Richland County. And we did change our name at that time to Greater Richland Tourism. That's worked well for us, because also what has happened in that is we've gotten partners from other townships who have adopted the room tax that finances our marketing campaign. So no local tax dollars go towards our marketing campaign, or really any effort that we make. The only local dollars that go to our effort is half of my salary is paid by the city. The other half comes from tourism dollars. It's our goal to continue to shift that to where eventually all of our work, including all of the salary of the director, is paid for by outside dollars. Okay? So there are, I always have to write this down because it changes. Been adding new municipalities, but townships that participate with the room tax, they've adopted the room tax ordinance, are Eagle, Ithaca, Richland Township, Forest, Henrietta, and the city of Richland Center. Then we have other counties that are always kind of interested. We have a couple of smaller villages looking at it as well. And what I would say to that is town of Ithaca has had the room tax now for 3 years. We have short-term rentals. When it went into effect, we didn't notice. Visitors expect they're paying a room tax. We've all here gone and stayed at a hotel. Didn't call around to hotels and go, hey, do you charge a room tax? Or what is your percentage? You don't do that. You know, when I stay in an Airbnb, so we're headed here shortly to Belize, and I did not worry about what room tax they might have charged. I did go look at it because I'm always interested to see what's going on. They've got like a 13% room tax, which I'm like, ooh, that's impressive. That's pretty high. But I look for amenities. That's the mindset of somebody that's going to stay somewhere. Are the amenities there? Is the location where I need it to be? And that's really what they're looking, and the cost, of course, the daily charge. We have townships interested, but understand if a township adopts the room tax, then the township keeps 30% of that by legislative order, by state of Wisconsin legislation. Then 70% goes to their tourism destination marketing organization, which in Richland County, we serve Greater Richland Tourism services that. And that allows us then to continue to grow our effort. So just a little explanation of how that works. I'd be happy to answer any questions. I threw a lot at you. I will say this, one question Steve and I have talked about a little bit, and I've talked with others. I'm also on the Ithaca School Board. It's very important to me that we have houses available for families, right? And so the question, Al's asked, Mr. Linz has asked me the question a couple of times, how many short-term rentals do we have in the county? And understand that's a hard question to answer because of a couple of things. Number one, they're fluid. Some come on the platform for seasonal. They might be off during the winter. Some they come on and realize this isn't as much fun as I thought it was going to be. So they're on for a short period of time and then come off. But I can say this. In 2018, when my wife and I were first looking at it, we were familiar with Airbnb. We've been using it for probably 7 years already up to that point. And we knew there was a short-term housing crunch in our county already. Hotel numbers weren't high enough. We thought, let's look at this. There were 11. 2018, there were 11 Airbnbs when we looked. And understand too, that's an estimation because when you go and look on a short-term rental platform, they don't tell you exactly where that property is for security purposes, right? You just know generally where they are. So this is an estimation. But there were 11 that popped up inside of Richland County. Fast forward so that was 2018. Then in 2023, I went and did it again and took a look. We were up in the 60 range. We were up around 60. So there was a quick growth. But understand, the city of Richland Center knows that they're about 50 hotel rooms short for what we should be offering. Okay? And we are losing. I get phone calls every summer, usually in the spring, starts about this time of the year, groups looking for places to stay because there are affinity groups coming in. So like Corvette, common ones at Corvette Club. They're wanting to come through Richland Center. They love the drive, the area, it's awesome. They can't get 20 rooms or they can't get 15 rooms. They can get 3, they can't get 15. So that is one issue. The city's aware of that. They are paying attention to that and working on that with some strong effort. At the same token, I am concerned that some folks see that, oh, this is a way to pay for that seasonal property, or that that's a way for us to just build that house. But I really think there needs to be some care given how many short-term rentals are in the county, because quite honestly, we want to make sure that the ones people come and enjoy here are at a level that they're like, boy, I'm coming back to that. Not, you know, what's going on with properties in this area. We want to be careful. Also, we want to make sure that families, because that's part of our goal too, is to bring people into the area with kids that will go to our schools and live here, that they can find a place to live once they make that decision to move here as well. So we're real sensitive to that. So I thought I better throw that one in there. So, any questions, thoughts?
Questions for Marty?
Oh,
Okay, question is, what was your advertising budget for 23 and what is it gonna be for 20 or 24? And what is it gonna be for 25?
I didn't bring the budget numbers, but I can kind of give you an idea. What I will say is that our advertising budget in the last 3 years has doubled. But that's because of the townships that have adopted that room tax. We have more resource. So we used to, you know, when you think about it, 3 years ago, we weren't even doing streaming advertising. And our spend on streaming advertising this year is right around $32,000. So really, when you start to look at return on investment, it's pretty strong. I just showed you the county 0.5% sales tax increase or the amount. That didn't talk about what the townships are getting for room tax too. So the return on investment's quite strong. But I know streaming is in that ballpark. So sorry.
Other questions?
So your primary thing that you're promoting is obviously the outdoor recreation. We have a beautiful county and that's what you're.
One of the things, yes.
What are some of the other things that you're promoting?
Our events. So if you're on the social media channels, you'll see that we were pushing pretty hard the Cazenovia fishery. Now you might wonder, why in the heck are you pushing a fishery in Cazenovia? Because people from urban areas love going to a small community. The Mushroom Festival, right? The Mushroom Festival. You will find that we will promote almost any event that welcomes outside people. You'll see that we'll put church suppers on. And I'm at Willow Valley United Methodist Church. I'm a member. And for our Lord's Acre sale one year, we had, well, actually it was 2 years ago, not last year, but the year after, we had like 6 people who were from Milwaukee that saw, hey, I just saw this, and they spent a ton of money in the auction. So pretty much any event that would be of interest to somebody from an urban or suburban area, we're going to promote that. The Polar Plunge is a big one, you know, Thunderfest, obviously, some of the bigger events, but also some of the smaller things. They really like to get into a small community because it reminds them of their childhood and it's nostalgic for them. And we do promote a lot of our tourism area businesses, so you'll see us promote quite a bit. The drive, you know, Starlight 14 Drive-In. We are probably the only city in Wisconsin that has a revamped or new, seriously, in the genre of age of bowling alleys in Wisconsin. The Phoenix Center is one of the more modern, quite honestly. But the roller rink's in great shape. Phil's done a great job there, and the outdoor movie theater. We are literally the only city in Wisconsin that has all 3 of those.
That's one thing, that was my point is.
Yeah.
Try to promote that because we are the only city that has all 3.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, there's only 8 drive-ins in Wisconsin still, right?
Yeah.
So that is a calling card. We have, I have a guest that comes every year from, I think it's Downers Grove from Illinois, stays at our cabins to go to the drive-in every year. That's the reason they came here. Then they go find other stuff. So absolutely. One other thing I should mention, we also have a grant program. So the rodeo is common. The Richland County Rodeo Committee applies to us for a grant. And then the Tourism Commission looks at that And it's got to answer like one of three questions. And that is, does it have the likelihood of increasing the number of overnight stays? Or is it a item or something that will improve the transient visitor's experience? The rodeo is an easy one, 3-day event, very likely to, and it does, increase room stays, right? One that a lot of people may have been hearing about, the Pine River. Okay, so the Pine River, I would argue, is one of the top 3 attractions that bring people to the area in the summer. And I go to Canoacopia convention every year, and people come along and they go, oh man, I've never made it there, or ooh, I've been there. And the line I use every now and then I heard there was, going to kayak the Pine is like going to the Wisconsin Dells without the noise, because of the sandstone, limestone outcroppings. Now we have a concern there because Mark, Pine River Paddle and Tube, Mark McCauley, has really been a diligent servant of keeping that clean. He showed us, I think we thought he was nuts when he first started that hey, I'm going to clean the Pine. He had others that worked with him that were nuts too. But they were going to clean the Pine so you can kayak it. And they did. And then we got to see these views and it's like, whoa, wait a minute. Well, Mark's at the age where he's like, I shouldn't be doing that anymore. So now it's like, oh, okay, how are we going to address that? And fortunately, there is a 501c3 Friends of the Pine, and they're associated with Southwest Partners. And we're working on a process to kind of bring some other folks in. And we do have a couple of different parties interested in doing that. Well, from the tourism side, that's going to cost some money. So for the last 2 years, Friends of the Pine had applied for a grant to us to help with that cost. We've been granting that, and we'll continue to do that to whoever picks up the mantle to do that work in the future. So there are different things that are kind of unspoken and unseen that we do as well. Okay.
Well, the dark skies and.
Oh, man, yeah.
That's something that we definitely should be promoting.
Absolutely. And we're fortunate in this area because we do have organization, Driftless Stargazing, John Heasley. Am I saying that right? Yeah. He's, that guy knows more about celestial, looking up in the sky. And real quickly, and I know I'm taking too much time, but I got to share this. We had some guests from Chicago that came up and stayed, and we thought, what? They're a young couple, they don't know where they're at and what's going on. So we took them to the Branding Iron on a Friday night up in Lime Ridge for fish. And when we came back, we made them ride with us. We get there, get to the cabins, and we just let them out. And this kid, he's 26 years old, stands up, looks at the sky, and goes, my God, it's dark. He was like scared because it was so dark. But then he's like, I can almost touch the stars. So there was this weird, I've never thought of that until my daughter lived in Las Vegas. She was in the Air Force. And you don't see the sky in Vegas at night. It just doesn't exist. It's huge. And you're right. But that's absolutely an attraction that we promote too. So.
Deer Classic.
Pardon?
The Deer Classic.
Yeah, we do a grant for the Deer Classic. It's coming up, Driftless Deer Classic. Absolutely. Yep.
How about 80 German Warehouse? How big of a draw is that? And we promote us with Frank Lloyd Wright birthplace.
Yep. Yeah. So we promote any activity event at the warehouse. Some advice was given to me a while back before when we were building our cabins for short-term rentals. Sometimes it has a page turn. Sometimes you need to become your own attraction. And with the 80 German Warehouse, we have a really unpolished jewel there. That the group that's been working on that has done a heck of a job and has gotten it to where, okay, we prevented any further damage. It's secure. But now we've got to get it over the hump of what's the attraction? Meaning, why would people come any day of the week to go to the 80 German Warehouse, not just for the art of it or the beauty of it, but to buy something or to eat or to experience something? So that's the question. What's the experience? And I'm working with them and honestly, they're open now on the Friday night little pub thing that is pretty cool. It's actually very interesting. So that's the kind of thing we've got to figure out how to get that building to the point of what attracts the dollars. Somebody from out of town to come and spend money there. And they've done a great job of securing it, keeping it from any other issues in the future. But that's the next step. So I am a little excited. I'll throw this out there. And that is, I was just today doing video at 80 German's house outside of Ithaca. And for those of you from the area, if you drive to Ithaca, you see German Lane and there's a big white house that sits at the end of that drive. For years, heard stories about it. Well, now you're going to get an opportunity to go in that house, and they have done a remarkable job. Now that's going to help. They're both going to help each other. You know, I hate this term, but I'm going to use it. There's a synergy when you do get two working together that is going to attract more than one. So, okay. I won't ask more questions.
Thank you very much.
Or Dave kicks me out. Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate the update. All right, continuing in reports, item C, Richland Resiliency Project report on land use.
I'll take that.
Mr. Bidrow.
As you all know, this last year we updated our comprehensive plan. Happens every 10 years or so. But what also has gone on recently is also with the help of the Southwest Wisconsin Regional Planning Commission is looking at resilience in the county. Risk mitigation, resilience, not just climate change issues and weather, but that is a big part of it. And so I was involved with one of the subgroups that looked at land use. And so if you look at our just updated comprehensive plan, there's a section on land use. There are a couple pages in there. What you're seeing in your iPads is that portion of comprehensive plan. And it's a list of recommendations that we thought would make us help preserve our resource base, land, water, all that stuff. And so obviously I encourage you to read it, see what's in there, but there's a lot of suggestions. The reason I wanted to emphasize it tonight is that a lot of the potential action items involve the county people, county resources. And so when you start looking at it, you'll see that we've already identified a lot of really good things that we'd like to do. Our land and water resource management plan for 2022, if you go in there and look, there's a lot of really good things we should be doing, but we could be pushing more resources toward those efforts. So that's why I wanted to present. And again, this was facilitated by the Southwest Planning Commission, and if Ellen's on, she can put that in context a little more and answer any questions anyone has. Are you there, Ellen?
Yeah, thanks, Steve. Can everyone hear me?
Yes. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay, good. So yeah, I'm not sure I have too much to add there. Steve, you covered that pretty clearly. We'd love if you all spent some time looking through these recommendations. The group worked pretty hard to put these together, and many of the folks in the meeting, both online here and in the room, were involved in writing these recommendations. So whether you have questions or thoughts tonight, or if you spend more time looking at this and would like to offer any ideas or other resources to help us start accomplishing and supporting others to accomplish these goals, let us know. Both Supervisor Steve Curo, myself at the Regional Planning Commission, and also Brian McGraw, Town of Eagle Chairman, all kind of led the process and would love if you followed up with us. So yeah, we'll open it up if anyone does have questions or thoughts. Otherwise, please do follow up with us as well.
If you have questions they'd like to ask.
One more thing I want to add is that some of the input to this, for example, county infrastructure. Josh Elder gave us some good ideas about things to consider for the highways, culverts and all that. And obviously Kathy, at the Land Conservation Department, is in the middle of identifying a lot of city folks. So a lot of people contributed.
We have questions. Brian McGraw was on my shoes. Okay. All right, well, it doesn't seem we have any questions in the moment, but we appreciate all your efforts and your availability. So we'll have the opportunity, we can follow up with you individually afterwards.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. All right, continuing under reports, item D, campus reconfiguration committee updates. Derek alluded to some things in his report that we talked about at our last meeting. We have a couple of immediate things to deal with. One of them being the contents that they left in the buildings. We had talked about the possibility of doing an auction. We had an auctioneer walk through the facility with us and just look at all this stuff. If we were to go that route, he thinks it would be best if you group things together in large lots and do an online auction, one building at a time. So it's not going to be a short process just because of the volume of stuff that's out there. Not that it would necessarily generate a huge amount of revenue. There are some items that would have value, but there's a lot of items that are items. So I'm trying to be gentle in my language here. So it poses quite a logistical challenge. So we would have to figure out how to address that. After that meeting that Derek described on Friday down in Dodgeville, Representative Curtis came back up to Richland Center and he toured the campus with us and was flabbergasted by the volume of stuff, shall we say. And so he has promised that he will connect with Jay Rothman from the UW system and see if there's any way he can leverage some cooperation from UW system to help us deal with that situation of all the stuff they just kind of walked away from and left. So we'll see what may come out of that. I don't know what will or what won't, but we'll see what comes out of that. So our timeline we were looking at was when springtime gets here and you can have buildings open and things like that. That's when we'd like to be figuring out what we're going to do with the stuff. We want to, where we're able to give people a fair shot at something, not just hand a bunch of stuff to one person or another, but we're prioritizing stuff that the county can use first. We have used some desks and some tables from there. There are other things that are within the facility. I know we want to have our MIS folks look at some of the computer stuff out there and see if any of it's salvageable. There are a lot of computers out there that are Windows 7. Yeah. So I don't know how much use they are. That may be like a large scale recycling project that there are outfits that do that, but we have to pay for that. So we'll see what we can figure out. Our next campus reconfiguration committee meeting, hopefully we'll have an update on that, but we are trying to figure out how to deal with it. The other thing we wanted to bring back to the full board on behalf of the campus reconfiguration committee, we're running into a situation now where discussions of the campus property and discussions of the county space needs study, there are places where they intersect, but there are also places where they don't. And the campus reconfiguration committee was created specifically for the purpose of figuring out what to do with the campus property. So before we got too far down the road of the space needs study and information from the consultants, we wanted to check back with the full board to make sure, okay, do you want us following this path too? As the campus reconfiguration committee. If you did, you could just give us a nod and say, go ahead and do it. If you wanted to pass a resolution specifically expanding the scope of it, you could do that. If you wanted to look at something different, that's the power of the board to do so. We wanted to come back before we just start assuming or charging down those paths to see what the full board's feeling was as far as progressing on those ideas for space needs. Anybody have comments they'd want to share? Mr. McGuire.
I know the name of the committee is reconfiguration, but is there any discussion about putting a school back there? I get a lot of people ask me, what's going on with the school? I say, I don't hear any talk about a school.
Be serious discussion about it. No, lots of people have lots of ideas. I will say that, and some very well-intentioned ideas. But as far as practicality and economic feasibility, that's where we run into a lot of problems. There's nobody sitting out there on $100 million that wants to come in and build us a school. So.
I'm not talking about buildings.
I know, but the reality that we have learned of the buildings is they would need significant investment to just continue for the purpose that they were created for, let alone adapting them to a purpose. So for anybody contemplating that kind of thing, you're looking at a massive investment they would have to make. Certainly the county's not in a position to make that kind of investment, so.
So basically you've given up.
I wouldn't say we've given up, but I just want people to be very realistic about the prospects.
So Dave, that was a big blow to the county, right?
Yes, it was, and continues to be.
Yeah. Which is why, one of the reasons why I raised that question about hiring somebody as a project manager for specific things, like the space needs or something like that, to get that off of the administrator's role, to get that off the board's role, and to have them come back and write. Not a consultant so much, because some of that land out there, I mean, I was at Jason Glassberger talking about economic development in town the other day. He had a 17 parcel piece that was designed behind the campus for housing. Neighborhood Housing Services is interested in exploring housing, right?
That is one of the
Don
ideas
is
that we
interested in exploring all kinds of stuff. So I'm trying to figure out a way, given the timelines, to have a really good win with a public relations thing that says, hey, this county, we're moving.
And we talked in some of those terms about what we're looking at for possibilities in our priorities discussion that we had in the last CRC meeting. One, there are a couple of truths that we need to deal with. Part of it is the truth of the condition of the buildings, and we've talked a lot about that. The other truth is it's costing us thousands of dollars every month that it sits as a county. 10 to 12,000 for utilities for largely vacant buildings. That's money we can't spend on other things because we're spending it out there. So we can't also hang on to these buildings for a length of time. We wouldn't fiscally be able to sustain that. So that's another reality we've got to look at is, okay, so looking at a reuse of the facility, we need to get it out of our hands. That makes sense? So that's another big factor.
There's a couple of our partners that could be present during those discussions, like the foundation, because they could bring private resources to bear on that land.
And those are definitely things we will talk about. So, Mr. Severs.
I'm not opposed to housing. Strangle it all. We need to figure out as a county where our mandated services, what our future holds for our housing of those and building an infrastructure that we need to provide those services.
Yep.
And there's going to be land that we need it. Right now, we own some.
Yes, we do.
Otherwise, we'd have to go out and purchase that.
Yep. And that's not the only land we own,
centrally located.
but it's the biggest chunk.
So
Yeah.
we need to worry about ourselves first when we're mandated before we start looking at other things.
And that's where the direction of looking at what the county needs first was one of our identified top priorities for sure.
As an example, a jail, dispatch center, public safety center, city police is looking also. So if we can do a
There
collaboration.
may be a synergy of some possibilities that can happen in the future, yes. Mr. Wendell.
Mr. Chair, I just want to make clear, and I'll switch hats to city attorney. We cannot put a jail on the campus property under the current city zoning ordinance. It is not even allowable under a conditional use permit. The city will have to change its zoning code before we can put a jail on that facility. It's something that I've heard raised a lot, and I just want to make clear in a public forum, that is not an option at this time. You are, of course, free to petition the city council to change that ordinance. But unfortunately, I've looked into it in both roles, and it's pretty conclusive to not put a jail there.
We change zoning ordinances too, don't we?
Yes.
But that property is entirely within the city. Yeah.
So it could be done.
Yeah, the city council just has to change their.
If you expand that committee's purpose on the campus to include other buildings and other possibilities. You just raised the timeline. Lengthen the timeline here. Meanwhile, we have Simon sitting there, and other partners that could be doing something. So I'm not saying housing is the way to go. I'm saying it should be explored. And we're small enough, why not open the table and have the foundation at the table, at the board meeting, have NHS at the table, have these different players at the table so we can bat around ideas to talk about.
Supervisor Glassman.
I'm on that committee, so I'm not advocating that as a board, you guys necessarily expand our role, but I would say whatever direction we take as a board, I really think it has to expand. We can't figure out what to do with that property without addressing all of these different priorities and possibilities, including our need for a jail and courthouse issues, our need for, housing, all of those things. It's all part of it. We can't just focus on one thing it's like a spider web. So however you guys want us to deal with that, those discussions need to be a part of it.
There are a lot of interconnected pieces, even though they may not be physically.
Say something if I can.
Go ahead.
Concern, I'd like to see it as a community place myself, because you have the auditorium, you have it for the county. I think we need and see what the taxpayers are thinking, because I know there are people that we're sitting there. Now these buildings are sitting here. The fingers of the American taxpayer, the county taxpayers. So I see a focus on the community. What do they think?
Mr. Gill first, then you.
The question is, are we soliciting, accepting, and reviewing ideas for uses of the campus? And what does that process look like?
We have not actively solicited ideas. Many have been volunteered. A lot of them start, well, the county could, and that's a problem because the county can't. We don't have funding available. We don't have the resources to put 3 or 4 staff members out there to manage buildings or anything. And so the kinds of ideas that we'd be looking for is somebody to take the property off our hands and do something really positive for the community with it. I guess would be a short way to put our conversation that we had at the campus reconfiguration committee. That would be our ideal thing. And as far as whether that's the whole thing or pieces of it, we can certainly have discussions about that. Mr. McKee.
Yeah, I know a while back there was talk of housing up and back. Neighborhood housing is in business to provide affordable housing, and all the housing that was discussed up there was not affordable housing.
Right. And
so we wouldn't get into something.
Yeah, and the community needs all kinds of housing, to be honest. Not just affordable, not just luxury, not just everything in between. The community has lots of housing needs, and NHS may be a possibility as a partner in the future. We'll have to wait and see. They're going through the process of hiring a new director now, so that person could bring forth some interesting ideas. We'll see. But we're trying to find that intersection of what can we do in a not too lengthy timeline, because it's sucking resources out of the county budget to maintain it as is, but yet also not rush into something that might turn into, for those who have long memories, like a Muscatine incinerator project. Some of you have been around a while remember that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I want to respond to the complexity of it, because I see that. And I also wonder, have any of us built a jail before? Because that's a huge thing, or a county courthouse. So that's why I was suggesting earlier that we hire some expertise to develop plans and come back to us. And what we'd have to do then is just pick 3 to 5 priorities or something like that.
To be honest, that's the next step our consultant is looking at, is helping us prioritize. And we figured out that the consultant has already figured with us, okay, your 2 biggest needs are the jail and the courthouse space. Those are our 2 biggest priorities. They have talked about the fact that we don't have the financial wherewithal to take one swing and do this all at once. It's going to have to be a phased project, probably stretching over a couple of decades to be able to accomplish it. And so figuring out how do we address the biggest need or the two biggest needs with an initial step. And in the meantime, sustain ourselves in whatever other office space we're living in for other county functions. If you'll remember, the consultants told us the building across the street that HHS is in is actually one of our most useful buildings because it's all ground level, easy access, flexible interior design, even though it's a former grocery store. So we as a county have our premier office space as a former grocery store.
Piggly Wick.
Yes. Wiggly, Kroger at one time, I believe. So there's some history. Mr. Manning.
I have a question for Michael. I've kind of looked into the courthouse and jail out there like everybody else. And I understand that the zoning would have to be changed. But people keep saying, well, there's ordinances against building a jail so close to a school. And nobody tells me what that distance is. Do you know what distance you have to be?
I don't, because I've never needed to look. It's never, I can't do it, so I've never researched.
And I'm not so sure it's a distance factor as it is, it's just not a permitted use on that particular parcel of land.
There could be, I know recently it's come up that, like the veterans organization has a rifle event that they have. Well, you can't discharge a firearm within a certain distance of a school, so I had to figure that one out. But it's entirely possible that such a statute exists. I don't think it would be an ordinance, or I would probably know about it by now, but statutorily that could exist. It's just not something I've had an opportunity to.
Jefferson and Lincoln schools.
I was just gonna say, may I point out that we're very close to two former schools, so.
Two former schools, and we're right across the street from a senior housing facility. In the middle of the downtown of.
Statute, I feel like we would have known by now.
So,
Maybe not.
but anyway, back to the original question we were asking. We're starting to get down some of these roads. Are you all okay with us continuing at that? Or do you want to pull back and look at something different? What are your thoughts? It's not on the agenda to make a decision on this tonight, just looking for some feedback at this time. Mr. Severson, you had your hand up?
Yeah, I believe it was 27 million for the Iowa County Jail that was built in 2020.
Grant County built a jail recently too. I don't remember what year it was, but their county board chair offered to share any information and insight with us if we're interested.
That was 74,000 square feet.
Yeah.
And I know that there are multiple ways that you can research options for helping with funding. I think that would take someone as the time and dedication to also.
Right. And I think the initial thought from our consultant was building a 100-bed jail. I don't know if that's the right size or not, to be honest. Maybe a smaller one would work better for our community. I don't know. But those are questions we'd have to address too, is okay, what kind of facility are we looking at? All right. Well, again, wanted to bring this before the board. If you have thoughts about it and want to talk about it again on a future agenda, the committee will continue on the path we're on for now. If you want us to do otherwise, please let us know. Great.
I know I have asked around citizens in the county, whether they be right here in Richland Center or out in the country area. The majority said they would not like to see housing out there on that property. What they're afraid of is that what or who is in there. Seriously, I'm sorry to say it, because, I mean, you look at some of the houses right here in town, and look what they look like, especially down Main Street, Orange Street. I'm sorry, but I mean, even over at Castoria, you go through that, and if I was from Chicago or Milwaukee, I would not want to move here because of what it looks like. And there are a lot of people here in town that don't want housing out there. They'd rather see it level first. Just be the lane.
Lots of opinions, correct.
Yep. Ideas. We're not gonna please everyone.
That's another truth, yes. We're gonna come up with a plan that pleases everybody. The fact that we're left in this position already stinks.
Yes.
And so it's not going to be fun to get out of, We will continue to do our best with the committee. We certainly invite you to attend those meetings, hear the discussions firsthand. We've had some public comments in the past. I'm sure we'll have more in the future. So, like I said, for now, we'll keep on. And if the board wishes to explore something more concrete or in a different direction, certainly let us know. We can get it on the agenda. All right, that wraps up our reports. Boy, we had a long report night tonight. Item 14, a resolution approving amendments to 2024 provider contracts for the Health and Human Services Department.
This will be resolution number 25-17. Now therefore be it resolved by the Richland County Board of Supervisors that approval is hereby granted for the following amendments to the following contract with Diane's Adult Family Home of Arena, with the original contract being for $100,000, amended to $125,000 due to the increased need to provide adult family home services to Richland County Health and Human Services clients, and with Fiscals Associates, Inc. of Madison, with the original contract being for $40,000, amended to $120,000 due to an increased need to provide financial management services. And be it further resolved that the Director of the Health and Human Services Department, Ms. Trish Clements, is hereby authorized to sign the above contracts on behalf of Richland County in accordance with this resolution. And be it further resolved that this resolution shall be effective immediately upon its passage and publication. This resolution was offered by the county board members of the Community and Health Services Standing Committee on 6 February 2025.
For the resolution, do I have a motion? Motion by Kramer, second by Fleming. Discussion, Director Clements is here.
So these are our last two contracts for 2024 that we need to clean up. As you guys know, any contracts over 100,000 have to come to this board for approval. Diane's Adult Family Home, we have an individual who's in our CCS program that is placed there, and so her rates have gone up. And so we needed the additional funding for that. CCS primarily pays for that placement. There's a small amount that does come out of our budget, but the majority of it is funded to CCS. And then fiscal assistance, that is a financial management program for our CLTS program. This was the first year that we had a contract with them. We did not know how many people would utilize that program. So based on the number of people that went to that, we did have to increase the contract. That also does not have any county levy. It is just pass-through funding.
Any questions on these updates? Not all those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Resolution is adopted. Item 15, a resolution urging Governor Evers and the Wisconsin legislature to support the county courts.
This would be resolution number 25-19. Now therefore be it resolved by the Richland County Board of Supervisors that Richland County joins the Wisconsin Clerks of Court Association, WCCA, and the Wisconsin Counties Association, WCA, in their efforts to increase the circuit court cost appropriation by $70 million payable to Wisconsin counties in the 2025-27 Wisconsin state budget. Be it further resolved that this resolution shall be effective upon its passage and publication, and a copy sent by the Richland County Clerk to Governor Evers and all Wisconsin state legislators representing Richland County. This resolution was offered by the Public Safety Standing Committee on 7 February of 2025.
The resolution, do I have a motion? Motion by Mr. Manning, second by Supervisor Glassbrenner. And Stacy is here to, you brief the Public Safety Committee on this, and please share for the whole board.
Good evening. And there's been a lot of excitement since that date. Last Wednesday, myself and 30 of my colleagues from Wisconsin's counties, the elected clerks of court, were at the state capitol. We met with many representatives and senators. I had very productive meetings with both Representative Kurtz and with Senator Kieski. I was pleased to be able to meet Senator Kieski. That was the first time that we had talked. There's collaboration between both sides of the aisle on this topic. thanks in part to the Wisconsin Counties Association partnering with us. This has been brewing for some time. Tonight, while you guys are having your meeting start at 7, the governor's address start at 7 on his budget as well. I'm anxious to catch that online. I don't know if he's specifically going to state the court's part of it in his budget, but at about 5:30 tonight, I got a call from the governor's office, and his budget will have in it what he's proposing, an additional 24.5 million general purpose revenue, GPR, for fiscal year 25-26, and 70 million for fiscal year 26-27 for what we've asked for the circuit court support payment. To be eligible for that, a county has to offer a treatment court program or a diversion program, which we do. We have both alcohol and drug treatment courts, and we don't know exactly what the strings of the diversion are, but like felony diversion agreements are a common practice. They allow people the opportunity to eventually get a felony count dismissed on certain counts, which is good for society on those crimes. So keep in mind, we are a long ways away on the final state budget. Talking to the legislative liaison that I work with and that we work with in our association, she thinks it's going to be a long 6 months. So I expect I'll probably be back down to Madison. Senator Kieski and Representative Kurtz will probably be here. Representative Kurtz has been a fantastic partner with us. As you guys know, he's a co-chair of the Joint Finance Committee, and he's one of them that helped us get the ball rolling. The Sauk County Clerk of Court and myself both kind of put a lot of pressure on Tony last year. The last 3 years, I had the role of president and within the Clerk of Courts Association, and so I was pushing for court funding increases, particularly for the rural counties. Waukesha Clerk of Court said to me a couple days ago during this effort, she goes, you know, we're like the second lowest in the state for shared revenue. And I said, that's because you're like the second wealthiest county. Like, quit whining. I'm like, let me show you what it really looks like. And so we had Representative Kurtz speak to the 30 clerks of court that were at our legislative day last Wednesday in Madison. He and Marcy Rainbolt of the Wisconsin Counties Association were our speakers, got all of the clerks revved up on the same page. We've been working with them for months about this is our unified message. And then our legislative liaison had prepared packets with all of our talking points. And then we kind of, everybody had made meetings already with their lawmakers, knew what rooms they were in, everything, and set out. So it was a very organized day of this. But Representative Kurtz said when he addressed all of the clerks, he goes, you guys all have different needs, like you all are here because your counties need this, but they need it in different ways. And we understand that some of you are getting, killed with interpreter fees. Some of you, it's attorney fees. Some of you can't make repairs to your courthouse. He said, I have been to Stacy's courthouse. It's terrible. And everybody laughed and looked at me and they're like, and he's like, no, it really is. He's like, her office is in a vault. And when I was there, it didn't have, he goes, it didn't have heat or didn't have air. He goes, maybe I've been there during both times. It was blowing, but it was like the wrong temperature. I'm like, yeah, I mean, it was probably during the summer when the heat was off for like 3 months, or the air was off during 3 months, you know? But to outsider, I think that's one of the things we have to remember. This is a very cool building, and people in this community, though, see it as a gem. And for many, they see it as what it looked like when it, was in its youth. And so there's emotions attached to that. And as we make those plans, and as you make plans as a board, I think it's really important that you bring the public in and you really show them what it looks like. And if you need help with that, I will gladly give tours because I know the good, bad, and ugly of every part of this building, more probably than any of you have seen. And, but to have an outsider say that, and in a group where he's been in many of these facilities and knows what a decent facility looks like. And, you know, so that's not me saying this place is like that. That's somebody telling half of the state's clerks of court down there pushing for court funding to the governor and to their lawmakers. Richland County has a courthouse that's in disrepair. Putting that out there for you guys. Want you to hear that. So because we are doing this for our counties, the Wisconsin Counties Association, in partnership with the clerks of court, have made this their #1 issue for the budget. I had previously heard it was top 3, and I was corrected last week, it's #1. And Marcy Rainbolt made that very clear in a appointed meeting with the governor's staff last Wednesday. And we're seen sometimes as rolled into the state system in the courts. But the circuit courts are a state and county partnership. I'm a county employee, my staff are county employees, everybody in this building except for the judge and the court reporter in the justice system are county employees. Everything that we work with, everything that we utilize except for our computers is county funded. So that's the message that we took to Madison. That's why the Counties Association is with us. This resolution is what I drafted. And then that was in conjunction with the Counties Association. It's been fact checked. It's endorsed by the County Association. It has nothing. This is what all of the clerks of court are now taking to their county boards to get them passed so that we can basically flood the Capitol with these, and we will keep on this until we get some relief.
Stacy, anybody have questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to item 16, resolution approving a new collective bargaining agreement with the Richland County Deputy Sheriff's Association and WPPA, the union.
This would be resolution number 25-19. Now therefore be it resolved that the Richland County Board of Supervisors hereby approves the 3-year collective bargaining agreement between the county and the union and authorizes the county administrator to sign said agreement on behalf of the county. Be it further resolved, that this resolution shall be effective immediately upon its passage. This resolution was offered by the Executive and Finance Standing Committee on 11 February of 2024.
Motion by Mr. Flynn, second by Mr. Williamson. Discussion. I know we have Chief Deputy Wallace online, and Attorney Wendell's been involved in some of the cleanup of the language too. So whichever gentleman wants to start us off here and talk about approving. Sorry.
So the reason this was not brought forward previously, to put it simply, is we forgot a guy. There is an investigator position that does not work the same shifts as the rest of the deputies. And while we took him into account during conversations, when the contract was originally drafted and brought before Executive and Finance, the carve-outs, the necessary carve-outs for his position were not in the contract. So this version just incorporates that investigator position. Otherwise, I might have to check my notes for the high points, but if there are any questions about what it is that you're looking to sign, I will do my best. And Chief Deputy Wallace can hop in if I don't know the answers.
Yeah, Mike, I can talk a little bit about the high points for the contract. From the last contract, we had several MOUs that were sitting out there. So what we did is we built those MOUs into the contract, the union. One of the major ones was the addition of the 12-hour shifts. We had recently been working 8.5-hour shifts. We did a trial period through the last contract. And the deputies and administration thought that 12-hour shifts were working a lot better. So that 12-hour shift has been put into the contract. We also had to add in the additional hours into the contract with a 12-hour schedule. We had a bunch of hours that were not being paid. They had agreed to do some switch time for that. And we add those hours into the contract. Other thing that we did with the wage study, we agreed upon placing the deputies on that pay scale, where the wage study brought them back as a good wage compared to other surrounding counties. It's a 3-year contract, and I think everybody, administration and the deputies were happy with what was agreed upon. If you have any questions, I can answer them.
Board have any questions? All right, not seeing anything else you want to offer, Mr. All right, well then, we will vote. All in favor of ratifying this agreement, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Vote. All right, resolution is adopted. Thank you. All right, that brings us down to item number 17. Do we have any correspondence? Okay. Item 18, future agenda items. Mr. Woodhouse.
NHS of Southwest Wisconsin would like to provide the full board with an update on activities. NHS is I am the representative of that board assigned by the county, and we'd like to update at a future meeting about some recent events and news at NHS.
Okay, very good. We have that. Any other future agenda items? All right, that brings us down to item number 19. Motion by Mr. Manning to adjourn.
Leave your iPad. Leave your iPad.
Yes, leave your iPads with IT. All those in favor of adjournment, say aye. Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you.
Var?